Hello there, and welcome back to the Happy Hippie podcast. I'm really glad that you're here today, especially for this conversation because it feels so timely. We've entered the winter season wherever you are in the world. In the northern hemisphere, at least, it's winter. It might be a rainy season where you are too, or if you're listening from Australia, hey, these themes still apply to everyday life. I was just thinking of ways that we can kind of tie it in with what a lot of people I know are experiencing right now, which is this winter season or just a season of slowing down. So you can take this into account anywhere you are in the world at any time of the year. But winter is a season where nature is literally telling us to slow down, to go inward, to conserve energy, and yet so many of us are doing the opposite. We're always pushing, we're hustling, we're trying to stay busy, we're filling almost every quiet moment that we have. And maybe you even saw the title of this episode and you were like, girl, rest. Okay, that sounds nice. Good luck with that. I don't really have time for that. If that was your first reaction, I want you to know that you're not wrong. You're valid to think that. And honestly, this episode, I kind of made it for this reason because I feel like the topic of rest and the idea of people being like, just chill out, like, just don't worry, just relax. You got it, girl. Take a deep breath. Like, sometimes it feels like, I don't know, we're kind of like bypassing things that are going on, and I want to present to you the idea of rest in a way that is super applicable. Anything in life, if you want to make it last, you have to be consistent with it. And yeah, maybe whatever you're going through in life right now, you can't rest 100% of the day, but you totally can find ways to just make yourself feel more rested. And, you know, we kind of live in this world where it's a culture, right, that rewards exhaustion because it makes us feel good that we're like working and pushing ourselves. And then we treat rest like something that you get when afterwards, like you earn it, you know, after you burn yourself out. So we're kind of going to untangle that is kind of the gist today. We're going to walk through it, but then I'm also going to give you real things that you can do in your day to make you just like feel a lot more energized, be like your true self and be able to get through these days. I don't know, just this whole topic about rest. So even if you're busy, if maybe you're not feeling motivated right now or you're feeling super motivated in something, or if slowing down in general feels uncomfortable, I know it does for a lot of people. In my yoga classes, sometimes I feel like whenever I hold people in poses a little bit longer or give more moments of stillness, I'll see people getting real twitchy. And I just know that's just a byfactor of like what's happening in the world where we're just always doing things and we're overstimulated. We have so many devices and things going on. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, kind of like the hustle myth, talking about our natural energy cycles, ways that we can reframe like laziness into a way of nourishing ourselves, and how we can actually make time to do all of this. So if you're new here, welcome to the Happy Hippie podcast. If you're a longtime listener, hey, it's nice to see you again. This is your weekly dose of holistic wellness and positive energy. So I'm the host. I'm the one behind the mic. My name's Amanda. I'm a yoga teacher, personal trainer, and a wellness guide. Every episode, we try to explore simple tools, ways that we can kind of shift your mindset. And we just have, hopefully, an inspiring conversation to help you create a life that feels really good inside and out. So this is where wellness meets happiness. Let's dive into talking about rest, the hustle myth versus what's actually happening in the world, and how we can tune into these natural cycles and do what we're supposed to do as a human, you know? We live in a culture, I'm gonna keep reiterating this, guys. We live in a culture that praises hustle, okay? More productivity, just more putting things out, taking things out of us and giving it into the world, okay? And like I said, it doesn't matter where you are, if it's winter when you're listening to this, if this is a new episode, an old episode, if it's summer, if it's snowing out, if it's dark at 4 p.m., these expectations kind of stay the same for us. They're subconscious. Other people might expect them. They mean nothing at the end of the day. But your body doesn't really attune to that. It doesn't work that way. You're not meant to be going 100% all the time. Nature doesn't work that way. You can see that in the way that different produce blooms in different types of the year, and the seasons do different things, and nature and trees. I'm just saying lots of nature words right now, aren't I? I feel like I sound like a hippie. I'm like, the trees, the wind, the rain is telling us. But what I'm trying to get at is in winter, everything really does slow down. This will be my last allude to nature, I promise. But we do have certain seasons, and historically, as people, humans, we work with the seasons. We're not going to work against the seasons. That makes it so much harder to do anything. So back in the day, like, we would have periods where we'd be naturally more energetic in the summertime because the weather was nicer and we had tons more food around us. And in the wintertime, we knew that things would get like dark and a little cold, and we'd rest a little bit. We conserve our energy so that when the weather's nicer, we can do all these things again. we don't live like that anymore, obviously, because of the day and age we live in, where we have different types of jobs and expectations. So like we're expected to operate at this full summer capacity energy year round, but that's not kind of what we're built for. So if you're feeling a little bit more tired, a little bit more less motivated, or like introspective almost, where you're kind of like, why am I feeling like this? I feel really groggy, or like I don't feel as motivated. It's not a flaw, or there's nothing wrong with that. It's just in our biology to naturally think these things, and then our body is doing something totally different. So it's not that you need like more discipline. We've been taught to ignore these natural rhythms, and we're treating low energy and tiredness like something is wrong, and it's not. We just have to learn to kind of work with these cycles and things that happen in life and make it kind of fit into the lifestyle we have. Because I know you're not just going to run off and go live in a cave and go hunt in the summer and then hibernate in the winter. And if you do, hit me up. That would be kind of cool. We could do that together maybe. But it's more like how we cope with that nowadays. We really kind of push through this fatigue. We override our nervous systems by doing these things. We drink more caffeine, we schedule more things, and we tell ourselves that we're going to rest later, but we just keep on moving and moving and moving, And something I've kind of been sitting with more and more lately is I don't know if I really want to live life from this place of constant stress and fear. Like, why am I doing this to myself kind of thing? I look back on different days, different periods of my life where I'm running around. I think of all these memories. I don't know how to like display this thought really too well, but I look back on myself. I see all these things I did. I see the place I was doing it from where I was like stressed. Or you ever been like super stressed trying to catch a train? And then you catch the train and then you just like sigh out a big breath and you're like, whew, all right, glad that's over. But before that moment, when you were on the train, it was just like the most stressful 30 minutes ever. You were hitting every light. You couldn't get there. All this stuff was happening. And then all of a sudden, nothing. I feel like sometimes when I look back on my memories, I go through periods of time where that's how I felt. Like I was just running around so much. And I'm like, for what? Like, why was I hustling so hard or like forcing myself or living in this kind of survival mode? Like, I zoom out and look back at it and I'm like, why was I stressing? Like, why am I forcing myself through these moments when I can pause, like in the future when these types of things happen, and it can be a little bit softer, Like hustle and pushing ourselves and all this stress, it comes from fear, like a fear of like falling behind or of not doing enough or not being enough. And I just kind of have come to this realization that I want to live life from a place of like love and joy, but not fear. So like, why am I wasting this life? Like not to get a little too existential, but we have this life and it's like limited and it's precious. Am I going to waste every day? Because that's what it is. Days add up to your years and years add up to the whole span of your life. Am I going to waste every day and all these moments in a day operating from this place of like fear and having to do something and rush here and be more, when maybe I can start to shift that and operate from a place of love, a place of being present, a place of being really more joyful? So yeah, that's kind of what brought me to this episode. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, instead of forcing myself to do all this work all the time or fit every second of the day, cram it full of activity and work, like, can I give myself permission to do something that might not be conventionally quote unquote productive, because those things actually fuel me to be happier and better. And then when I'm happy and better, I can do work. But also at the same time, it's not always about work. Like, if I give myself permission to paint, which is so hard for me to do sometimes because I feel like when I have that gap of time, I can be doing something else. To just read a fiction book, not a book that's going to like propel me. Because sometimes I found myself reading like a lot of nonfiction and I'm like, no girl, like you can read a little fantasy book. It's okay. To do something like just to play that like kind of helps my nervous system relax, helps my body feel nourished. And that is productive because I'm doing something good for my body and my nervous system and also enjoying my life, And that kind of rest is what fuels you to do better work, to have clearer thinking. You're going to be better rested and then be more creative, which are the things I will find myself complaining about if I don't give myself, like if I'm pushing myself, I'm like, why am I not coming up with ideas? How is this like really difficult for me? And it's like, girl, you need to play. I need to rest, Our time here is limited. I don't really want to look back and realize that I spent this entire lifetime stressed, rushing, and disconnected from joy. So with that being said, how can we add a little bit more of that into our lives and reframe from this idea of being lazy and associating that with rest to looking at it as a way that it nourishes us and it's actually just going to really help us have a better life quality? The biggest mindset shift of this episode is rest is not a reward. It's more of like a requirement. Like we need to be treating rest like productivity. Like, it is productive, you know? It's not something that you earn by checking off everything on your to-do list and being like, okay, now I can watch that show. Because honestly, like, the list never ends, and we need that nourishment. It's like food for us. Like, it's like water, like sleep. Like, sometimes things look conventional when you think of rest, okay? Taking a nap, having a really slow morning, and sometimes these things aren't possible, so we're like, I'm never going to do that, giving myself a day off or something. But rest can be unconventional too. Like I said, the ideas of painting, letting yourself do so. I keep using painting because I'm like thinking off the top of my head, and I'm just trying to think of ways that I like to enjoy myself and things that are fun for me, and that's kind of like creativity. And for you, it might be something totally different. I try to come up with a lot of different examples when I do episodes, but sometimes, you know, it's just me and a mic over here. I go a little like blank. There can be something that makes you happy. Think about a topic that you like that you've kind of put off for a while. It might be like a language that you've always wanted to learn, or it could be, let's say you like gardening, you like cooking. You can just watch YouTube videos on those topics, like something that you just enjoy, that you wouldn't mind just chilling out and consuming information on. That's not gonna, it doesn't have to propel you in life, but it's just something you enjoy reading on. It could be a history topic, it could be reading a book, it could be doing puzzles, it could be whatever speaks to you. But making the time to actually do that is a form of rest. And I don't think for a while I let myself think that. I thought I could either be filling my time with something really productive, or I'd honestly get so burnt out that when I had a gap of time, your girl's taking a nap. I'm laying down. I don't want to do anything. And that's how I saw rest, black and white. I was either doing something or I was doing absolutely nothing, and there's nothing in between. But you can kind of find this spectrum of letting yourself enjoy something without turning it into like productivity, or if you're in like social media, like without turning it into content. Like, just notice, I don't know. I've just noticed that when I give myself permission to kind of enjoy things, that's a form of rest. Like, without that guilt, like your nervous system in response will start to soften. And when you're doing things from a better regulated response of your nervous system, you're just going to have a better life, like in general. I could go into the science behind that, but honestly, like doing it fuels you. I keep using the topic of food and fuel. Like it helps you, it helps your body, it helps your nervous system, your mind, your patience will expand. It's not laziness. It's a way of like coming back to yourself. It's almost like preventative care too, because I've said it all the time on this show that we like to wait until something really pushes us to the edge before we make a change. That could be your health, that could be you like getting to a really bad point in something. But like, why wait for something to push you to that point, you know? When we don't allow ourselves to pause, our bodies are eventually going to do it for us, and it's going to stop us from doing something, either through burnout, anxiety, like an illness. It could be an injury, exhaustion. So before we hit that point, kind of learning to rest is one of the coolest things that you can do for yourself, because you're letting yourself not get to that point. Now, on my mission to convince you to enjoy rest, if your life is really busy, if you had a lot of work, commitments, responsibilities, again, I said it in the beginning of the episode, but you're not wrong for taking a moment and being like, this sounds a little unrealistic, but rest doesn't have to like feel like a full day off or a long vacation or hours of doing nothing or meditating. Like I said, it's almost finding something you enjoy, but you can find ways to weave like little small moments of rest into your life in a very gentle way. It's honestly about keeping things consistent, because think about everything in life. If you want anything done, and I've always said it before too, like if you want to start a new hobby or a new habit, like try 10 minutes a day. You're not going to be able to, because I do it all the time where I'll tell myself, oh, I'm going to read this book today. And it's like, I won't, but I can probably read a page, and a page is better than nothing. So it's keeping yourself consistent. How can you add rest and look at it and put it into your life in really, really small ways? You got to throw out that black and white thinking, which is it's either this or that. It's one way or the other. We got to find ways that we can kind of create micro moments. So thinking of rest, oh, I like that. Micro moments. Sometimes I'm saying things, I'm like, wow, hold on. But yeah, thinking of rest as like a micro moment of maybe like regulation, you know, not massive blocks at times. So here's a way that you can add more rest into your life. Thinking about in the morning when you're drinking your tea, your coffee, your matcha, whatever it is, matcha's tea. I'm just listing tons of examples as usual. Not doing anything else. Don't go on your phone. Just take 2 moments and stop multitasking. Just enjoy the drink. You can think, you're allowed to sing, you can do whatever you want, you can play music, but just chill out. Take 2 minutes to just enjoy one thing at a time. That's a cool way to kind of help us come back into the idea of resting. If you do have an urge to like scroll on your phone, because that's something that happens to me a lot when I'm like in the morning, if I'm drinking or eating, like I'll try to go on my phone. And I've been trying to cut that habit. Girl, oh my God. Habit. I combine hobby and habit all the time because I feel like I use them interchangeably in this episode, and I just keep doing it. Like I was practicing, sometimes I'll practice talking to myself in the shower before I record this episode, and I kept saying habit, and I just did it. I'm not even going to edit that. That was really weird, but it's a habit of mine of I'll scroll on my phone, and I'm trying to break that habit by I just like chuck my phone across the room. Honestly, most of the time I just want to be able to focus on one thing at a time. Music is such a cool tool. I'll just put music on. I use my TV just to play YouTube. I do YouTube ambiance. Sometimes I'll watch one podcast that I like, and then I'll just do like music. Like there's playlists, like indie playlists, and I'll play them all the time. And then it just gives me something pretty to look at on the big screen. Like there's a nice picture on the big screen, which I can like look at without being too engulfed in the TV. And it's helped me with a lot. It's helped me relax. It's helped me be productive when I'm actually trying to lock in. So I love using my TV for YouTube and just keeping that up there. But listen to music, take a moment to just enjoy drinking your drink, listen to some music. You could practice stretching a little bit if you're waiting for something to load, maybe stretching your neck and your shoulders. Go outside for like 5 minutes. You can like listen to a song, go outside. Just think of different ways that we can weave in moments of relaxation. Maybe letting yourself sit on the couch for 5 minutes without immediately jumping up to like do something. Like just, it's funny. Even if you don't want to do any of these, think of these, okay? Think of these ideas throughout your day and notice when you do the complete opposite. That's a fun way of just becoming aware. Notice that when you get your drink, the first thing you do is reach for your phone. But don't feel bad about it. Just become aware of these things. Like we're never going to make any changes if you want to make changes in your life if you're not aware of them, if you're doing things really subconsciously. So I always encourage these activities to be done from a point of view where you're just auditing. You're taking a little check. Like if a teacher, remember when you were in school and the principal used to come into the back of your classroom and observe your teacher? That's what's happening. But you're not going to get in trouble. I just want you to notice like when you try to whip out your phone all the time, and that kind of takes you away from a state of rest, or noticing when you're just like, oh, I got to go do this. Just giving yourself that moment, because these moments matter. They kind of condition your nervous system to be like, hey, I'm safe. I don't have to rush. I don't have to jump to the next thing. And that's when this real training of rest kind of begins. Now, let's talk a little bit about aesthetics, because the idea of like being fun and aesthetic and romanticizing your life is something that will always motivate me to do anything. Kind of ritualizing your rest. So especially in the wintertime, the winter is a really good excuse for being cozy. If you're not in the wintertime, the evenings are a really good time to be cozy. Think about whatever you're doing to find a little bit more rest. Change your lighting, create a really nice warm atmosphere. I think it's really fun to buy. I hate the big light. The big light, the one on top of the ceiling, I won't use it. I have like a vice against the big light. I only use ambient lighting in my house, and they're like, honestly, they're cheap things I've gotten like online and from different places. But I have a lot of lamps that like stand up in the corners and they change colors. They're kind of affordable these days. So I have tons of little lamps. I plug them in all the rooms. I will not touch that big light. Okay, that big light, I can't. Really cozy light bulbs, blankets. Think about how you can just turn your evenings or even your mornings. Maybe you wake up early in the mornings to give yourself this period of time, slow morning, a nice early night, instead of resisting the fact that maybe if it gets colder and darker out. What if you honored it in a sense? You can kind of like ritualize that rest. So you can light candles, the excuses to kind of decorate your space really nicely. When you go to sit down to do anything, light a candle, just add that practice into it. There's also there's a lot of science behind it too, but fire and candles. In yoga, there's a practice where you can gaze into a candle. So you just kind of spend time looking into a candle flame. Also, if you ever had the Wii, do you remember the Wii Fit? They used to have the meditation exercise where you would look at a candle like on your TV. It's an ancient yoga practice as well, where you just stare at the candle and you kind of just like try to keep your focus on it. And if your mind wanders, it's okay. All meditation is all about the coming back. So coming back and noticing it, not judging yourself for letting your mind wander or anything like that. And you can use a candle to kind of invite a little bit of meditation into your day. It also, like I said, is aesthetic and cute. You can also create wind down signals. So sometimes when it hits a certain time period of the night, like for me, like 9 p.m., I'll be like, okay, I don't care what's happening. I need to start shutting down. I have multiple jobs and I work online, so it's really easy for me to just choose to work through the night. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes I need to, and it's better for me to just like bang out some work. But other nights it's like I need to set limits for myself. So when a certain time comes up on the clock or something else, I just like let myself be like, okay, this is it. This is my signal. We're going to log off. You could also, try to just like give yourself this time during the week. Maybe you set a rule for yourself that the mornings 7 to 8 a.m. is like your time. This is going to be your time to relax and unwind, to start your day with a slow morning. Or maybe for you that's going to be 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., whatever. And you can honor that by keeping boundaries and making sure that you don't overschedule yourself on, not every day, because again, life is what it is, but you don't always overschedule yourself, and you just create this time for yourself. If you know that you like to eat lunch by yourself outside and that's your jam, like, and someone invites you to go eat lunch, you could say yes, like you have your own free will. But sometimes it's like, it's okay if you're honestly feeling like a little tired and you just want to like have your reset time to be like, no, I'm okay. Like finding ways that you can protect your little cozy routines, and when these things become a ritual, they start feeling really nice, and you stop putting these pressures on rest. You start finding it in different ways. I guess one of the biggest takeaways I just kind of want you to have is to know that both of these things can coexist. The idea of going through life and having motivations and having things to work towards and being productive, you can do these things, but it's just finding also moments to come back to yourself, to reset, to just enjoy, and it's not black and white thinking. Healing your relationship with rest doesn't mean doing nothing all the time. It's not about swinging from burnout straight to like complete stagnation where you're not doing anything and then you're doing way too much and then you go back to doing nothing, which that's why I'm talking about it. Who do you think does that? Like I've done it so many times in my life. So it's about having a balance, and it's just about being aware. So just notice if you do these things and how you can make little micro changes. There's still space in the world of rest for motivation, for movement, for goals, for structure, even in the winter time. Like we can still do these things, but it's the energy behind it. Again, your intention that kind of shifts, like doing things instead of doing it out of fear and out of stress, doing it from a space of love, doing it from a space of grounded calmness. Instead of forcing yourself, you move from a state of being a little bit more gentle. Instead of fear, you move for more intention. And instead of pushing yourself, you kind of like pace yourself, and you can still show up for your work and then give yourself these moments of coziness and relaxation. So it's about action and rest and how both of them can kind of coexist in a way. I just want you to remember, like, we can do all of that. Now, I do love to end with journaling questions. I have 3 questions that you can ask yourself them now if you just want to like take a moment, hear them, pause the episode and think about how they relate to you, or you can save them to journal later or just ponder on, like in a movie, looking out the window as you're driving one day. Not as you're driving, but as you're in the other seat, because you probably shouldn't be looking out the window if you are driving. Anyway, the 3 journaling questions I have. Number 1 is, where in my life am I resisting rest? Like, where do you find it the hardest to allow yourself to have this type of rest? The next thing is, what am I afraid would happen if I slow down? Because in your head, you're probably like, nothing, but pause for a second, notice, like, what am I afraid of if I start slowing down? Like, what would happen if I start slowing down? What's that fear that's inside of me? For me, for example, it's like, well, I won't get everything done. Like, that's the first thing that used to come up for me. And then lastly, what kind of rest actually nourishes me? Based on some of the active forms of rest I talked about, or even some of the things that you can find that you enjoy, what's the version of rest that actually nourishes you, I'll leave you with a little reminder. Again, rest is not something you earn. It's not something that you deserve. It's just part of you. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to enjoy life. You're allowed to create from a space of love and joy and good emotions instead of doing it from fear and stress. You can change these things and you can allow yourself to see life that way. It may take a little bit of time, but it's totally possible. Like, I've been able to do it. So yeah, even those small moments of rest, whenever you can get them in, they count. So just try to remember that. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If this episode resonated with you, share it with somebody who needs that permission to rest too. Before we officially close out, I do have something really special to share with you. The Happy Hippie podcast merch. I've said it probably 5 episodes, but guess what? There's a link below. It is live. It's actually live. I'm so excited to share it. This has literally been like a labor of love. I don't think I've actually used that expression in my life before, but this was legit that. It took me probably like 4 to 5 months to figure this out completely, and I kept trying to launch it, and then I was like, wait, no, I had some ideas. We is me, because I'm talking like there's another person in the room, but it's just me. I created 3 nature-based designs. One of them is rooted in the mountains, one is inspired by the sea, and then one of them is kind of centered around flowers and butterflies. And each of those 3 designs, kind of like 3 different aesthetics, they're available on hoodies, crew necks, and tote bags. And every piece has an inspiring quote. It's kind of the same vibe of like reminders that we talk about here on the podcast. The whole idea was that you have a nice cozy sweatshirt that can be very intentional, grounding. They're like little wearable reminders that like wherever you go, you can carry this message with you. And then that helps you, like when you're picking out your clothes, you're like, yeah, and you see the little message. And then when you're wearing it out and about, other people can see it too. So it's kind of like a ripple effect, you know? You can find everything related to the podcast merch linked in this episode description. Yeah, I'm so excited to see them out in the world. If you wear them, please tag the podcast Instagram, the Happy Hippie Podcast, or you can also tag the Happy Holistic Hippie. That's my Instagram. But yeah, go click that link. Go look at that link, okay? And one more thing I wanted to share is I've also been talking about the Glow and Flow Hub. So I have made the decision to push gently the launch of the Glow and Flow Hub to January so that we can begin the new year together with a little bit of intention, with a little bit of alignment. This Glow and Flow Hub that I keep talking about, it's a space that's an all-inclusive online community. It's going to be an online studio / online community. So it's going to be filled with meditations, embodiment practices, rituals, full yoga classes. There's going to be sound baths. We're going to do a book club, and then there will be a beautiful supportive community. So instead of rushing this project, which I felt like I was doing a little bit, I wanted to honor kind of the same message that we talked about today, slowing down, just enjoying the process, like nourishing the process and giving myself the rest so that I can create something from that place and building it out of love instead of pressure. So that will be launching in January, and stay tuned. There's going to be so much cool stuff coming with that. Be sure to follow the Happy Hippie Podcast on Instagram and TikTok for updates, for sneak peeks, a little bit of behind the scenes, discount codes, things like that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, truly. Like, you listening, supporting, and choosing to live your life with a little bit more intention, softness, and joy is just, it's something that like, it's so cool for you. And then I also feel that effect, and hopefully it ripples out to other people too. Again, if the episode inspired you, don't forget to share the show. You can follow it on whatever platform you're listening to, or give it a quick little review by just hitting the stars. It helps so much, the show. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you again.